So in addition to recording matches and deck techs on this channel, one of the things I want to do every week is stop to have a chat about different things. Yeah, they'll mostly be Magic related, Magic Origins in particular, but sometimes it'll be a bit of a ramble. Now, there are several things we're talking about right now, most prominent of which is the fact that earning gold in game isn't as unlimited as we were originally led to believe, but that issue is still unfolding. It seems nobody, not even Wizards, knows exactly what's going on. So rather than throw my half-baked opinion out about something that only became an issue yesterday, I'm going to let this one stew for a week to see how it plays out. I expect more on this next time. The thing I have had a lot of time to think about during the lead up to the launch of Magic Origins is how the game treats deck building differently than the paper game. The first difference is that if I leave my deck out on the table for a minute, I don't have to worry about my cat trying to eat it. But the second, and much larger, difference is that Magic Origins is more restrictive on the number of cards that you can play. I'm not talking about the card pool here. For a free new game to launch with 15,000 odd different Magic cards that have been printed over the last 20 years, that would be nuts. What I'm talking about is the number of individual cards that you can put in a deck. See, paper Magic allows you to play up to 4 copies of any given card in your deck, with the exception of basic lands. You can run as many of those as you want. Duels, on the other hand, it has a hard limit based on the rarity of the card itself. You can run 4 of a common, 3 of an uncommon, 2 of a rare, and 1 of a mythic rare, theoretically preventing players from just stacking their deck with a pile of the rarest, theoretically the most powerful cards they have at hand, and just beating face with it. Players who play standard paper Magic at the time of writing probably got a visions of a certain Abzan card in their head as I said that. Okay, seriously, who the hell thought Siege Rhino was a good idea? Back on topic. I know some people don't like this restriction on deck building. When it was introduced back in the 2015 edition of Duel of the Planeswalkers, I heard a lot of people gnashing their teeth on Reddit or on Facebook saying how it restricts creativity or doesn't allow them to replicate their real-life decks on the web. I didn't play Duels 2015 because I hadn't finished the 2014 model yet and was getting my fix at the local game store playing paper. Now that I've geared up for Origins, though, I've had to face this issue for myself. And you know what? I'm okay with it. The first thing is that Origins doesn't have all those thousands of cards I mentioned earlier to help diversify the metagame. At the time of writing, we have a couple hundred, which means that diversity in decks, at least until we get a couple of expansions, will already be limited simply by the limited card pool. And if 4 of any card was the norm, we'd quickly find the metagame would shape itself around 10 to 15 cards of each color, with everything else being lost to the collection tab. Not because the cards themselves are even bad, just that some other card does its job slightly better. I mean, Flesh to Dust is an alright card for a common, but I wouldn't run it if I could just run 4 Languishes in its place. The second reason I like this is that it helps prevent the rarity overload that new players who might come in a few weeks or months after launch might experience. If a new player just hitting the ladder gets routinely crushed by players who have better cards purely by virtue of having already committed the time, they're just as likely to uninstall the game as they are to grind to get better. Keeping the majority of power in the lower rarities, i.e. the part of the game a new player will have access to early on, helps them to keep up with players who have been there longer or who simply have more time or money on their hands. It also doesn't punish those players who have been around for a while. I mean, they'll still get their wins with the rares. Rares and mythics are still part of deck building. They just won't be able to use them as routinely to generate as much of a huge advantage. This leads me to my third point, which is that it'll force us to examine how we build our decks differently. In traditional Magic, you can just jam 4 copies of your ace card into your deck and call it a day. But this requires us to re-examine how we build. Do we make decks that are less reliant on our bomb rares, or do we build our decks around them even more, using card draw and tutor effects to make sure that we draw them no matter what? This distinction between paper and digital Magic will be what gives this game its appeal to people who play both, I think. If I just spent my entire night grinding at Friday Night Magic over and over against whatever the flavor of the month is at the moment, Siege Rhino, I don't want to then flop down on my couch afterwards just have to face it again and again online. The difference in metagames that this will provide will allow the matches to feel fresh, even for players who played both, and will let this particular iteration of Magic develop in its own way. In fact, there's some things that excite me about this system. For example, the reason many cards are printed at the rarity they are is for balancing the limited environments in paper, like draft or sealed events. Well, for the online game, we don't have those, so it's not an issue. They could print whatever card they want at any rarity for our format. A card printed at rare for limited purposes can be an uncommon, or that one dicey uncommon can be bumped down to even a common. Heck, if a card's revealed to be too oppressive, it could just be bumped up a notch. Even errata to help keep the game balanced without actually having to change anything about the card's cost or its abilities or its power or its toughness. I'll be real interested to see if later expansions, if any cards are printed differently than their standard counterparts. I hope Wizards explores this. I think it could be a great way to help keep the metagame separate but keep the cards the same. Leave your comments below, and thanks for watching.